Hello and welcome to another episode of Building the LEGO Wizarding World. In this episode, we're going to be focusing on the Room of Requirement. We're going to have to modify it and add it to the build. So yeah, let's get into it. So, where am I going to be putting this set? Now, I was thinking originally that I could put it here and try and fit it in with the LEGO Whomping Willow section of the Hogwarts build. But then I decided against that. And I was thinking maybe somewhere on the lower ground, but I didn't really like the idea of that either. And I was also thinking, should I put it over in this direction? And then I started thinking, that's not a bad idea. If I put it around about here, that seems to fit. And then students can walk through this door into the Room of Requirement and walk past into a room here, which would be very good. So I've started planning that out, and let's start building. So to start off with the Room of Requirement, we're going to be removing these base plates underneath and changing them for bigger plates, because these aren't nearly big enough for how big I want the Room of Requirement to be. So I'm going to be starting it off with a plate this big and adding onto it. So if we use our brick separator to help get into this, we'll add this plate underneath, and hopefully that should start to look quite nice underneath there, and we're actually getting quite a bit of room within the room now, so that's looking very nice. I still don't know exactly at this moment in time what to do with this section. I might change it. I might have to do a bit of development around the sides, but who knows? So if we put the Room of Requirement around about here, this kind of fits and is starting to look quite nice, and we could have a whole room for the Room of Requirement. And I don't think it will be a movie accurate size, as obviously all these sets aren't movie accurate size, but I think it'll be a nice little room which is fairly movie accurate with some certain details within inside of it. So let's get into a time lapse of building up this wall. So now that I've built up the cliff, I can now place the Room of Requirement, but I'm going to need some modifications done to this section over here on the curved section, so let's edit that. So, we have to completely redesign this section of the Room of Requirement, and it isn't necessary to the build. I'm not gonna lie and say, oh, I desperately need this in my Hogwarts display, but I can't have it at this curved angle, as theoretically it just won't work. It might work, but not likely, and I don't want to base the whole build off this angle, and I just want it to be a straight angle, a bit like this instead of curved like this. But I'm not really loving the look of this at the moment, but I think it'll have to do for now. But now let's get some tan bricks to sort out this mess. So here I've got a nice subtle redesign of the Room of Requirement, and obviously it's looking a bit blocky and bricky, and that was a bit weird to say, honestly, but it's starting to look okay from the inside, and that's the most important side to me, and I'm thinking that it's looking quite nice. But yes, I really do need to have a bigger look at design, materials and efforts outside the build to make it more presentable. Now, obviously, the Room of Requirement is hidden in Hogwarts. Like, you're not meant to know it's there, it's meant to appear, and your enemies, such as Umbridge in the Order of the Phoenix, is not meant to know that the Room of Requirement is there. So, we need to cover up these blue panels. And the way that I'm going to do that is just by sliding one of these plates here and just having it like there, so it looks like a brick wall. Sadly, on this side, I can't cover up this blue section, and I'm not wanting to take out these trans blue pieces as they do look very nice to the build from the inside, so I've got to think of a solution for that as well. But for today's episode, I'm going to add in this side so it can open up and represent like that. So to fix that down, all I need is a 1x4 grey brick, and then I can just place or slide this underneath here if I lift that up and put it there. Now obviously I do need a 1x1 grey brick underneath that, but this just gives it a bit more of a round feeling for now, and I'm certainly loving how this is looking. And if we have the door open like that, it does look a bit weird with only one brick showing on this side and no brick showing on that side, but most of the time the build will be closed, obviously, because people aren't meant to know where the Room of Requirement is unless if you're in there and using it. So I've got my 1x1, let's take these bricks out again and place it under there, in there, and slide this back on, taking a bit of the roof off at the same time, but nothing that we can't fix quite easily by just replacing the top on there. And yes, that's a subtle redesign of the Room of Requirement, not fully finished of course, but yeah, let's move on to the next stages. Now I have added the Room of Requirement onto Hogwarts now, and it's hanging over so that I can build it more this way, coming towards this end of this base plate to have a lot of room at the back of the astronomy tower, but also a lot of room in the Room of Requirement, as it is a very big room. And I have managed to get a bit more curvature around the edge, and I'm liking how that's looking, and I think that's definitely an improvement from before, and it's looking as a nice section onto Hogwarts as well, and I'm really liking this little add-on. But let's add on to the top of the Room of Requirement. Let's get that sorted out. I have added extra details into the Room of Requirement as I have wanted to try and make it more like a professional room, and I'm thinking it's looking very, very nice now, especially with the tan bricks down the side, just to add an extra strip to make it look more professional and more like an actual room, along with Harry and a couple other characters such as Luna and Hermione. This represents the scene from Order of the Phoenix when they're all training to fight against Voldemort and anyone that they encounter. So yeah guys, I hope that you enjoyed this short little episode. Next time, hopefully, we'll be looking at building King's Cross Station from Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. So yeah, I hope that you enjoyed this video. Remember to like, comment and subscribe, and have a great day.